My name is Hope Justman, and I'd like to tell you about how I found my first old road in China. It was in 1999, and after two trips in China in which I saw all the famous sites, I decided I wanted to get off the beaten track. I'd learned from my first 2 years that China was a very safe place. I also realized that I was very good at traveling in China because I had studied Chinese in college and in graduate school. So I could communicate with people, and they were very helpful to me everywhere I went. So, my third trip to China, I decided I would get off the beaten track. And I decided the way to do it was to follow an earlier traveler. And the traveler I chose was a man named Edwin Dingle. He had traveled to China in 1910. He was an Englishman, a reporter stationed in Singapore, and he decided to walk across Yunnan province into Burma. And the reason I chose his book is Yunnan is exceptionally pleasant, sunny and warm in the winter, and I was traveling in January. And he very conveniently, in the back of his book, listed every town he had slept in, which made it very easy to retrace his route. And the other thing that appealed to me about his book were some of the photographs he took. In retracing his route, I found many of the places he photographed, and they hadn't changed at all, which was, for me, very rewarding. I was planning to follow his route by local bus. I was very fond of local buses in China. In 1999, there were no rules or regulations. Today, you need a seat, you need a ticket, no one is allowed to stand. It's very much like Western long-distance buses. But in those days, anybody who could squeeze on the bus could get on the bus, and that included animals. Once I was riding on a long-distance bus. I had an aisle seat, and I stretched my legs out over a box that was in the aisle next to me, and we went over a very, very large bump, and all of a sudden a rooster stuck his head out of the box right between my legs, looking at me rather indignantly as if I had woken him up from his nap. But anyway, I just closed the lid and pushed him back in again and continued on my way. So things like that, which happen all the time on these wonderful local buses, made me think retracing his route through northeastern Yunnan in an area where there were no tourist spots would be a lot of fun. And everything went very well until I got to the fourth town where he spent the night. And that was called Pingyao. My landlord told me in the morning when I asked about the next bus that there was no bus to Tantou. That was my next town I was heading to. But he said I could walk. There was a road. And when I said that would be fine, he sent a local boy along with me to help me find the way. Because there were many, many forks in this road. So we set out, and the first 2 hours we traveled along a dirt road, which really wasn't very much fun. But then all of a sudden, near the crest of a hill, we turned off the dirt road onto a beautiful flagstone road. And I realized right away that I was on the exact same road that Dingle had traveled in 1910, literally following in his footsteps. That was the first time I realized that some of these old roads were still around. Originally, I thought they had all been paved over. They had been made so well and went so directly to their destination that most of the new highways were made simply by ripping out the old flagstones and paving them over. But when the old road got to a mountainous area, the old road went up the mountain directly on steps. So the graded highway could not follow and took a more circuitous route. thus inadvertently saving long stretches of the original flagstone road. So once I realized this, I changed my mind from taking the bus to hiking the old road where I could find it. And it was very difficult to find. In 1999, I only traced it for about 2 weeks. And then I took a bus into Kunming. And I discovered at the university bookstore that the road I had been traveling was known as the Nanfang Sichuan, the Southwestern Silk Road. Realizing by then that old roads still existed, I took a train north to Sichuan and went looking for another old road called the Road to Shu, which is the road that our tour is going to follow. I had heard about the Road to Shu a long, long time ago when I was in college. I was an art history major and I took a course on Chinese art. And my teacher took us to a very famous exhibit at the Boston Museum from the Palace Museum in Taiwan. And in that exhibit was a picture called Ming Huang's Journey to Shu. This is a detail from that picture. All of a sudden, the trail ends, and what we have is a plank road, a road made by driving planks into holes in the cliff, and that supports the roadbed. The time I saw this picture in my art class, I just assumed that this road was a figment of the artist's imagination. But later, I'm not quite sure how much later, 10, 15 years maybe, I was subscribing to a magazine called China Pictorial. And there was a very small article in one of the issues about a plank road on Yuan, on the side of a cliff. And when I saw the picture, I realized that this was the plank road that had been in my picture, that it was real after all. So after I found the road in 1999 down in Yunnan, I went looking for the road to Shu.
Shu is the old name for Sichuan, and the road to Shu was originally built in the 4th century BC, so the Qin state could conquer Sichuan Province. It runs between Xi'an and Chengdu through the Daba and Qinling Mountains. Their steep terrain helped save the original road, and additional stretches were spared in order to preserve the 10,000 ancient cypress trees which have shaded this road for many centuries.
I'm very pleased to be able to share the Road to Shu with people on my tour. People you meet on the road are local people. So it's a real experience, not a tourist experience. And that's why I come back every year and why I like it so much. It is one of the most beautiful roads you'll ever travel.